They couldn't help themselves, could they?
Thank you.
We're so grateful for you.
All right, so I'm Drew Eyerly. I am CCL's Conservative Outreach Director.
And I'm Karina Ramirez. I am your Diversity and Inclusion Director. I come from the Seminole Taino Tequesta lands from Florida. My pronouns are she, her, ella.
There we go. All right, so welcome everybody back to the Omni again. I absolutely love it here. I get the best rest of my year while we're at this conference. So, I climb up under my bed, I turn the air conditioner on, make the room nice and cold, and I don't hear anything until that alarm goes off. I absolutely hate that alarm. I'm comfortable, and the last thing that I want to do is come out from under those blankets, so I hit the snooze button repeatedly. But this isn't really productive. I'm here to work. I'm here for you all. I'm here to create change, and if I want to do that, I have to leave the comfort of that bed. Put on this uncomfortable suit, get up in front of you all, be uncomfortable speaking. Absolutely hate public speaking, if you can't tell by all the sweat coming off of me right now. I'm just not good at it, but here I am. This conference, thank you. So this conference and on, Karina and I, we hope to encourage you all to get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
All right, it wouldn't be a session without asking this. So turn to your nearest neighbor, stand up, turn to your neighbor and give him a hug, a good one. Oh, look at that. Very beautiful. Give me my hug to get started. All right, everybody.
All right, that works.
That worked for you? All right. All right. Now let's get serious. Doesn't that feel good? Yeah, that feels good. All right. So our learning goals for the next 30 minutes. We are going to learn about two different individuals, how confirmation bias created expectation, and how conversation can lead to positive relationship and friendship.
So our goal today is to demonstrate that change doesn't happen when we're comfortable. Change is created in the uncomfortable moments. We don't expose ourselves to information that challenges our point of view because, we're comfortable in what we believe. We only have discussions with people who echo our sentiment, because we want to walk away feeling positive about the interaction. Our social circles, we form those based on commonalities, but if we only allow ourselves to move in these hand-picked circles, we miss the opportunity to create change. Change in others as well as in ourselves. We miss the opportunity to change the direction and the divisiveness that is growing in this country.
So we're going to start with where we were. This is me when I joined CCL, wonderful, excited. I could present myself and say, I'm a mother, I'm a Latina. I love Asian dramas. Walking on the beach gives me comfort. I like documentaries, and I am known to sing and dance while I'm cleaning. It's a thing. I know I adapt well to change, and I'm not scared of it, but I am cautious. When I joined CCL, I was very cautious. I remember several conferences ago being one of the few, and when someone once confused me for the help. I could have given up right then and there. I could have given up when I went to my first meeting at the Boca Raton chapter, but I persisted. I remember going to my first CCL conference in November 2017 and listening to our founder, Marshall Saunders, say to the audience, you start new things and you make them real. We are an organization driven by volunteer initiatives. And that stuck with me. I often say that I and other people like myself have a vision for CCL that CCL doesn't have for itself yet. We are optimistic in that way. When CCL introduced diversity and inclusion, it was not done with the care I would have wanted. It was siloed. Most people see it that way when they look at us from the outside even today. They will ask me about equity and justice and how we are working to include that in our work. And I entertain all the conversations. Listening is a skill I've learned from my early journalism days, and it has helped me in this role. I've seen CCL embrace change based on input from you and try new ideas. And while I was happy to see this, I also felt lonely. Then I met Drew.
So I believe in holding myself accountable. Our faults, they make us as relatable as any value or moral or perspective. What I say next is from my story. So the details, they're only specific to me, but that doesn't mean that, the path is specific to people like me. So my hope is that everybody in this room can learn from my experiences, not just, this side or that, Democrat, Republican, everybody. So as you can see, there's not a lot of photos for me from my early years as a volunteer. If there are, I didn't take them. I was active though. I helped start the Augusta chapter. I helped start the Veterans Action Team, and I also did a film screening for The Burden, all within like 6 months of joining. But the problem is I kept to myself. So the photos that you see up here, these are from after I realized I was missing out by choosing who I associated with by their labels. So I will be very open and honest with you. I'm standing here now before you, a once was hypocrite. So even after joining CCL so many years ago as a volunteer, because of our nonpartisan value, I still searched out people with the red conservative tape at the bottom of their name tag. I knew that they were relatable to me. I was looking for my already established community rather than trying to build a new one. So, sure, I was polite, I was cordial with anybody that I came across, but the conversations, they were superficial, and many times, I walked away judgmental or with strong opinions. I was here with you, but I was on my own path, with very little regards to yours. Had very little interest in anybody as individuals, but then I met Karina.
That was good. All right, so from the start, you would have think that this is a very unlikely pairing. When we were hired, we were both asked to cater to our respective communities. We were often asked the same question: how do I work with XYZ? Or what does this community believe? We realized that we faced the same challenges. Our work and friendship would not have evolved into what it is now if we had not purposely decided to get to know one another. Also, if this organization was truly nonpartisan, how would we, sitting in our respective corners, I as a liberal, him as a conservative, live up to that value? So we decided to have many conversations about our life and our work.
So when Karina and I began talking regularly, it was definitely intentional. We had no reasons to cross paths, but we believe, we both felt like we should. I won't lie, in the beginning of this relationship, I went into it thinking that I had enough of a silver tongue to make her agree with my perspective. It's true, it is what it is, all right? It did. I thought that I had just enough background to be relatable and have her see me as, the ally that I wanted to be seen as. My words would get through to her where other people had failed. I didn't expect, the change in me, but being able to change her, as I'm sure many of you all have expectations, the same expectations when you're reaching across the aisle on any polarized topic. I won't speak for you all, but I now know that I was wrong. The same points that I thought I would use to make myself relatable also made her relatable. Our conversations became increasingly uncomfortable. Sure, we had similarities, but what drove us to have, what we wanted to find out was what drove us to have different perspectives. We had to have these discussions. We had to respect and understand, to realize that, what made us not agree. We continue to have these uncomfortable conversations. They're much easier to have these days as we understand and trust each other, but they're always going to be uncomfortable. And, that they must happen. I know that I'm never going to get Karina to agree with me outright. It's no longer my goal. I've learned that this is not Drew's world, and you are all not just living in it. Uh, but in fairness, I'm never going to agree with her either, and that's okay. You know, I've discovered that removing agreement and focusing more on respect and understanding and trust is all we really need to, be considerate of each other while working on this common goal. All it took to make this change was being uncomfortable. Karina understands my perspective, and I trust her to deliver, my message, my intentions, while also helping me craft my own message in a way that's probably not so abrasive without changing the original meaning.
Go back on slide.
Oh,
That's okay.
there we go.
All right. I'm glad that was there for the time that it was there. So, as we've been learning from each other, we have heard many of the things that you see on the screen. Take a moment to look at them. And no, I'm not going to read them because they're painful. We now have a definition for these comments. They are called microaggressions. They are comments that are often unintentional but hurtful. Drew and I have heard them in many sessions, in many conversations, and I believe that these thoughts interfere with our work to build inclusive environments.
So, as you can see, we experience the same things. We just don't see how others are being, similarly affected.
Drew and I realized through our many conversations that we are in a community with volunteers and staff members that have a lot of differences. We are addressing the same issue that we care about. That's climate change. And we all value diversity, inclusion, and nonpartisanship. That is rare for an environmental organization. I often think on the difficult challenge that it is and what a big responsibility we have undertaken. How we make decisions and the things that we support says a lot about our values and ourselves.
All right, so let's take a look at some of the social science real quick. So our perspective is what drives our choice. If I perceive something as right or wrong, it dictates the actions that I take around that issue. You may not agree with me, but from my perspective, Crocs are the peak of performance, style, and comfort. If anybody saw me yesterday, you know I'm a huge fan of Crocs when I came barreling in here for the board meeting wearing them. So through my personal growth, I've come to understand that miscommunication and lack of understanding starts from personal perspective. Have you ever argued with someone about the color of something? What we see happening in society today is a much larger and more serious but similar argument. We defend our choices by defending our perspective. So speaking of Crocs, we're going to do an activity real quick. Take a look at the photo. What color are the socks in the Crocs? Do you see pink and white, or do you see gray and green? This is a representation of generational experience. Some individuals from an older generation may see pink and white because they come from a time when, in their experience, tube socks were white. Their brain removes the green lighting and translates the image to white and pink. Younger generations who are experienced with multicolored everything see the socks as green and gray. The green light on the pink shoe turns it gray. Since there's all colors of Crocs out there, mine have little mountains on them, we accept it as gray. That's my shirt. So, I used to think that if I could justify my perspective, then people would agree with my choice and ultimately agree with me. Where this fails is the lack of consideration of personal experience. Personal experience is what creates the lens of perspective that drives personal choice. I was very anti-Crocs until I was in Kuwait, coming home from Iraq, and I needed shower shoes, and Crocs were the only thing that they were selling in Kuwait at the store. I placed those awful things on my feet and immediately experienced all their glory. So from that day on, my perspective on them changed, and now I choose to wear them everywhere, including board meetings. So again, experience drives perspective, which drives choice. Once I realized this, I realized that I can't change a person's choice or perspective. The most that I can strive to do is understand and respect their experience. My goal then became to respect and understand, why they are where they are, and never really to find agreement. All right, so changing experience can change our perspective, though. It can. Younger Drew said everything that came to his mind with very little regard to how it impacted others. I used to be extremely verbal with my opinions. Hurt a lot of people, even those that I cared very, very deeply about. So I want to share a very personal story with you all. My aunt was my favorite person. She never had kids, so she treated me like her own. Around the age of 22, I couldn't get in touch with her for a good bit. And when I finally did, the conversation was off. It was awkward and it felt very forced. Finally, for the sake of small talk, I asked her how her husband was doing. The question broke whatever dam of emotion that she had been holding back. My aunt proceeded to tell me through tears that her and her husband were separated and that she had certain feelings since she was about the age of 13 that she never discussed with anyone, and that she was terrified of telling me because she knew my position on stuff at the time. Nobody can judge me harder than I judged myself after that. I was so set in my perspective and my choice to be outspoken that I unintentionally hurt someone that I cared for more than anybody else. That experience immediately changed my perspective and my choice on how I conducted myself. Fast forward 6 months, she comes to see me with her girlfriend, soon-to-be wife, right before I leave for Afghanistan. Her name was Suzanne. Suzanne is absolutely great, and she is wonderfully blunt. She asked me first, within an hour of meeting, we sit down, we're having lunch, and she asked me directly, why was I okay with my aunt being gay? So my response was, I love her, and I want her to be happy. You could visibly see the tension come off my aunt. I could have defended my perspective and my choices around that topic up to that point, but all I had to do was respect and understand her experience to keep that relationship with her. Seeing her comfortable and true was amazing, and I'm extremely thankful Suzanne came into her life and gave her that confidence to be herself. So, thank you. Unfortunately, my aunt passed away a few years ago, but fortunately, I still have Suzanne and all of her amazing, qualities and the lessons that I learned from that experience. So as I tell that story, I think back to when Danny Richter asked us a few years ago, do you want to be right or do you want to be effective? As you move from breakout to breakout over the next few days, think about your own life. Have you ever experienced an event that caused you to change your own perspective or even just make you appreciate, understand someone else's? In fact, let's go ahead and just take 5 minutes or so with the people around you and have a conversation about it. Think back to a time and share with them around something similar, an event that changed your mind on something.
Get to it.
Let's set a time. Where are we at on time? Okay. right, if we get you guys to bring it back.
Welcome back, everybody.
Hey. Right here. Do it like the kids in my school. Everybody give me 5.
High five.
That works. All right, I appreciate you guys all taking the time to do that. I know it's tough being vulnerable and sharing things like that. I know better than anybody else right now.
All right, so we're going to talk a bit about where we are now. Drew and I are different, and that is more than obvious. I mean, he's tall and opinionated. At first, I was not sure how this was going to go. But as I said, I welcome all conversations. So I went with it. As our conversation progressed, we found out and accepted that we would disagree on a good number of issues, social issues and climate solutions. This was tested for us when we discussed nuclear as a climate solution for CCL. After our discussion, which included why I was against it, we recommended including the pros and cons of the solution in future CCL material. This was a compromise. While I know I'm set in my way of thinking, I also learned that people understand concepts and ideas differently. This is what D&I, or diversity and inclusion, teaches you and commits us as practitioners to embrace. The concepts and ideas are constantly changing and evolving, and it's asking us to adapt. With Drew, I want to understand why he believes what he believes. I am going to see him as a person, and he is going to see me the same. In my lifetime, I haven't had a lot of experiences where people just accept me as I am. And they don't ask me to conform to a point of view or a way of doing things. It is liberating, and I am thankful for him. We have built trust in the past couple of years, and that is one of the hardest things to do, especially for adults. Last fall, I invited Drew to co-present with me for the Diversity and Inclusion Workshop. We started that in October, actually July, but our first session was in October. And I told him that I wanted us to talk the way that we do and have you experience the way we communicate. Because if we can get over the divide, maybe we can inspire you to do so as well. We're both so tired of the political divide. The divide is not going to help us get to the main conversation. What are inclusive climate solutions for us? Where do we need to compromise? Are we listening to communities of color, indigenous people, people with disabilities? Are we listening to conservative perspectives? I want that conversation instead of spending my time convincing people why I need to be here or in this particular space. I want our conferences to continue to be as open and diverse as possible. I want us to be in our communities advocating for what we want and recognizing that our differences are our strength. I feel Drew and I learn more about each other with each conversation, and we understand and accept each other as we are.
Thank you, thank you. She is the older sister I never wanted. But so thankful to have. So, it was definitely, there was this assumption that, we weren't going to be able to get along or work together. We have had years of conversations now. This relationship did not happen overnight. But we also didn't start our conversations with any kind of confrontational ideas, anything, polarized, no crazy thoughts like that. This conversation or this relationship started with a simple phone call saying, hey, how are you doing? That's all it took, for us to see each other as actual people.
We're here building community in different ways. Let us embrace that. Celebrate each other. We are so much more than the boxes we are placed in. Shame and anger have never produced growth, and we all know this. Let us remind ourselves that we are here for the same reason and with the same goal. There are benefits to diversity, and we should demonstrate that at each chapter meeting and in each CCL session. Let us understand our culture by listening more and being open to change. As for me, I don't want you to invite me to this party because you want to diversify. Or you need that person of color in the photo. We've seen that way too many times. I am here because I believe in the work CCL wants to accomplish. And I am working and dreaming of the type of livable world we all want, just like you. So now we have a special announcement. For those of us that have seen our work since October and in March, I want to take this opportunity to thank you for your positive feedback that you have provided Drew and I during the past couple of months and for engaging in productive conversations in your community. After having several discussions with Drew about what could happen next, we decided we will host a 4-week series starting in July. It's going to be called From Comfort Zone to Connections, like this session. We're going to expand on what you've been hearing and learning during the past couple of months and continue ongoing conversations that can lead to more understanding and more community building. If you're interested in joining us, you can sign up over at that code, or you can scan the code, and we look forward to seeing you in our future sessions.
All right, so let's go ahead and we're going to recap our objectives here. We want to build community, not just find it. We want to do this by increasing the amount of conversations we may have in areas or with people that we see as uncomfortable, and we want to be intentional about it until it becomes internal or second nature. I have made some of the greatest connections here at CCL with people I probably would not have interacted with had I not been engaged with Karina and learned these things. I've become so comfortable with being uncomfortable that I find myself seeking out people who are different just to hear their story and their why. It is possible to have conversations, thank you, it's possible to have conversations where the goal is to not change someone's mind or have your mind changed, but instead to just understand their perspective so that you can be considerate in a compromised approach or solution. So here is my request of you all. Too often, Karina and I here, I can't talk to them for whatever reason. If you've ever felt this way, I'm going to challenge you to go try. Find satisfaction in the attempt and remove the frustrations of the potential outcome that hold you back. Get out of that comfortable bed and go create positive change, even if it wasn't the change you were looking for. Now, everyone get up, go find someone you don't know. Just stay seated. This was all written, but you don't have to do this right at this moment. Meet someone new across this week and ask them about anything not climate related. I know that's a crazy thing to do at a climate conference. Go talk to somebody new and learn about them. We all know why we're here. And have an honest conversation while you're here and learn something. And then this is a little bit off the cuff here. It's not something we plan. But what I do want to say is that this work is extremely challenging, especially with focused outreach. When we're talking to staff, it's, we're the voice of the people that, we're the directors for. Karina and the D&I community, me with the conservatives. When we're talking to our volunteers, we're now the representation of the staff, and you play middleman a lot. When controversial topics come up, we have to have these uncomfortable conversations where the paths cross. It is difficult, it is tough. Nobody does it better than Karina. Absolutely nobody. She has, the way she represents her line of work and make sure to include conservatives in it and putting up with me. As you heard, I'm very opinionated, and when I get comfortable, my opinions come out very bluntly, and she tolerates me, and I am so thankful for that and thankful for you. So, I got this for you.
Oh, no, you didn't. Oh my God. Where did you have that? Oh, thank you. Oh, wow. Okay. I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to give you that satisfaction. No. Uh, Final thoughts about Drew, because, it's also unscripted. Um, he's a good friend. I can tell you that. I was afraid of him at the beginning. I'm like, because again, tall person, short person. But we have some great conversations. And almost every conversation I want to turn into a workshop. Because I'm like, we're learning from each other. And I'm like, you think that way, I think that way. And I think it's absolutely great. As I said before, I'm just extremely grateful to be able to do this work for you. Again, thank you so much for your feedback, for willing to try. That's all I ask, just try. And let me know how it goes. I look forward to learning how your week goes and when you get back to your cities, what kind of interaction you're having. Again, embrace D&I the best way that you can, and think of all of the different ways that we're all different and unique, and we bring something new to the table every single time. So thank you.
All right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take at 10:20, we're going to take a break, and at 10:20, we're going to have 3 experience-focused workshops. The workshop titles and room numbers are on the screen and on page 7 of your program. So thank you all. We'll see you in the Empire Blue and Palladian room. That room. Thank you.